Hello again and welcome back to the PhatPhish Guitar Studio. I'm Dave, and in this video I'm going to be doing something that I don't normally do. Namely, I'm going to be responding to YouTube troll. Now, the advice I normally give people, if you're on YouTube or Facebook, any of the social media, you'll get a certain percentage of people who are just basically trolling and coming up with abusive comments and whatnot. And I get plenty of those. There's some good positive feedback, and thanks to everyone who submits positive comments and likes videos and makes suggestions for how can I improve content on the channel. But now and again get somebody who just posts just rubbish, and this particular case I thought I'd respond because I think there's sort of a lesson to be learned. So I'll read the comment that I was sent, and it came from a guy called Reggie Wallace, and it was in connection with the video that I did where I compared this made in USA Stratocaster against the Fender standard made in Mexico guitar. So Reggie's comment was, "What a jackass, tells us how the American Strat sounds better to his ear, then gives us a demo processing the sound with distortion. Thank you for a totally useless sound comparison." Okay, now I responded to Reggie because I did genuinely think there was merit in showing the two guitars side by side. The only effects that I particularly had on when I was playing were a little bit of drive and some reverb just to soften the sound up a little bit. So my response was, "There's no use for name calling. As for a totally useless comparison, are you seriously saying that you can't tell the difference in sound between the two guitars with the same settings here?" And that's kind of the important thing. The demonstration in question, I played the two guitars on 3 different settings, but I played the Mexican and the USA on a slight crunch, a little bit more overdriven, and then a more distorted sound. So you heard like 3 different sounds with each guitar side by side, and I genuinely think there's a distinct sound difference between the two. Personally, I prefer the sound of the American, but quite a few people who commented on the video said actually they prefer the sound of the Mexican, so it just goes to show there's a lot of personal taste involved. I also made the point that a lot of times you hear a Strat being played, it's with an overdriven sound. So hearing how the two guitars sound in the context of an overdriven voice, I think is perfectly valid. And also there's the important comparison to be made between the output of the pickups. The USA pickups, these are stock, the stock Alnico pickups, slightly lower output than the ceramic pickups in the made in Mexico, and the made in Mexico one slightly higher output. They'll drive the amp a little bit more, give you a little bit more drive. So Reggie's massively insightful comment said, "Well, why don't you also process the sound with EQ, chorus, phaser and wah-wah? Could it be that those effects would mask the sound and make any comparison meaningless?" Well, yes, Reggie, I do know that laying effect on top of effect on top of effect will make a sound comparison meaningless because they start to mask the sound of the guitar. That's why I didn't do it. The only effects it had was a little bit of drive and a little bit of reverb. Besides, and this is kind of why I'm making this video, says, "Besides, who says that higher output is good or even desirable? You're ignoring that making hotter pickups generally comes at the expense of definition and clarity." And he bangs on a little bit and gives me a few offensive comments. But let's talk about those pickups. Because what I want to talk about is the way that the pickups interact with the amp. Because if you don't get the way that the pickups drive the amp, and the way that your picking dynamics affect the way that the guitar drives the amp, you're missing out a really important facet of playing electric guitar. And if you don't get this, it actually is going to hold you back as a player. So this isn't so much to name and shame Reggie Wallace for trolling me in the comment section. He did, I have just named and shamed him, but I don't care. What I want to talk about is the way that the pickups work. What you've got in the pickup is a magnet with some copper wire wrapped around it. Now, the material that magnet's made out of, whether it's Alnico, which is a blend of aluminium, nickel and cobalt in the case of these USA pickups, or if it's a ceramic magnet in the case of the made in Mexico guitar, the type of magnet affects the voice of the pickup, and that's wrapped around with copper wire thousands of times, and the gauge of copper wire, the pattern that it's wrapped in, the number of times it's wrapped around the magnet, that all affects the tone, whether it's got more bottom end, more mid-range, more top end, and the overall output. All these factors come together to give the pickup its own unique voice. So this is the guitar just on the neck pickup on its own. I've done a few wiring mods to this, but these are basically the stock pickups. So this is going into a PV Valve King 50, and that's the guitar into the amp just on the clean channel. And that's a perfectly nice, clean, stratty sound. Now let's switch over to the dirty channel. Dirty channel, I've got the gain set at about number 3. And you can hear that there's still the same basic voice coming from the pickup. It's overdriven, it's got a little bit of distortion on there, but the basic voice that you heard on the clean channel still kind of persists through on the distorted channel. What I want to do now though is switch over to the Mexican guitar and compare and contrast the sound. So here we are with the Made in Mexico standard Strat, which as I said has got ceramic pickups. So going into the same amp, same settings. First thing you can tell there is that the guitar's got a little bit more drive to the sound. Now the guitar's got a different voice. The pickups are different. I don't think they've got quite as much top end, as much glassiness as the American pickups. But for me, the main difference between the two is that these are higher output and they're pushing the amp a little bit more. I said though, the guitar's still got its own distinctive voice. So that's the guitar on the dirty channel. And that's the guitar on the clean channel. And tell between the dirty channel and the clean channel, it's still got the same fundamental voice, just in one case it's got a bit more drive. Now if I was doing a full review, demonstration, whatever, of any guitar, I would demonstrate it with a clean amp, I would demonstrate it with a dirty amp. But really the point of the Mexico versus USA review was more just to compare and contrast them rather than being an exhaustive demonstration of each guitar. And the demonstration that I did, I was actually playing along to a backing track. Now if I played a purely clean sound, you're not going to notice the difference in output, because one guitar I would probably have to turn the volume up a little bit just so it didn't get lost in the mix, or turn the other one down so it didn't overpower. I felt it was a better comparison to have the dirty sound, because you could hear the difference in drive levels between the two guitars, particularly on a more subtle overdrive. But either way, you can still hear the fundamental voice of the guitar coming through. Okay, so the reason that I'm kind of making this video isn't so much to defend myself against trolley comments on that USA versus Mexican Strat video, so much as it's to talk about a really important way that you need to approach playing electric guitar. And that's about thinking you're not just playing the guitar, it's the way that you interact with the guitar and the way that the guitar interacts with the amplifier, particularly when you've got a gain stage involved and you've got a little bit of drive, a little bit of distortion. That drive sound isn't like a binary, it's distorted or it's not. It's like distortion on, distortion off. There's degrees of distortion, and I'm not talking about how you dial those settings in. I'm talking about how you can vary the way that the amplifier responds to your playing whilst you're playing. I'll show you what I mean. For this actually, I'm going to switch over to the American Strat because we're having the lower output pickups. It gives me a little bit more control. Right, so using the USA standard Strat, this is the bridge pickup on its own, same amplifier settings. You can hear there's a certain amount of distortion coming from the amp there. And that's just my normal sort of right hand picking action. But what I can do is if I play a bit harder, make those strings vibrate a little bit more, they'll move through the magnetic field of the pickups more and induce a stronger signal. Yeah, you can hear a difference in sound. More distortion, not necessarily louder as such, just more distorted, because I'm putting more signal into the preamp stage, so it drives the amp a little bit more. But still got the same fundamental voice of these pickups and whatnot. Conversely, if I pick a little bit more softly, you're still hearing the same voice of the pickup, but there's less drive because the strings are vibrating less, they're inducing less signal in the pickups, lower input into the amp, less drive. And you can also mess around with like reducing the volume, so this is just regular pickup volume control at 110. Back it off just like number 7. Cleans the sound up a little bit. Then up the full gain. It's called dynamics, picking dynamics. It's about not just hitting the strings the same way all the time, it's about understanding and being aware of how the guitar drives the amplifier and being able to adjust your playing to alter the amount of drive, the amount of gain, whatever, as you're playing the guitar. And it's useful, it's incredibly useful for just making your playing more interesting, so you're not always just playing with the same sound and the same feel. You know, within a piece of music, there's going to be times where you want to back off and play a little bit more softly, times where you really want to dig in. And if you understand the relationship between the way that you pick the guitar, the way that the signal comes out of the pickups into the amplifier, the way that the amplifier responds with more or less drive, then that's all helpful in being able to build up your sound and play something that basically sounds good. And something else that's probably worth pointing out is the idea that more gain isn't necessarily better. You know, something I've seen a lot of times when I've been teaching people who are fairly new to electric guitar, they've got an amplifier, it's got a gain channel on it, and there's a great temptation to turn the gain up quite a high level. To be honest, a good guitar sound often has less gain on it than you think. So here we've got the bridge pickup on its own. It's got a bit of drive on it, but not tons and tons. If we turn the gain up a little bit, so go up from 3 to say number 6. We're getting a good overdriven sound and the voice of the guitar still comes through. Let's turn the gain up right ways. And that's a big, thick, dirty, overdriven sound. So there I was actually playing towards the end, playing a bit more softly, but you didn't notice the difference so much in dynamics because there's so much gain coming from the amp. You know, it doesn't matter whether I'm giving it like this much signal from the guitar or that much or that much. The general amount of drive from the amp is so much that you start to lose the dynamics. So think about when you're tuning your settings on your amplifier, don't just whack everything up to 10. Consider backing the gain off a little bit, and you know, think about how the guitar is interacting with the amp. You should be able to hear the voice of the guitar coming through, and you should be able to hear the variances in your playing, rather than just hearing this like I said, this binary, it's distorted or it's clean type of sound. So like I say, it's not so much about, you know, naming and shaming trolls. To be honest, the comment I thought was a bit short-sighted and not constructive and a bit abusive, which I don't like. But hey, this is the internet. There's always going to be some of that. But really, it was about making sure that I get the point across about the way that the guitar and the amplifier and the pickups and that all interact. Okay, that's all for now. I hope you found the video useful. If you did, please click like, please subscribe, please leave a comment or whatever down there. If you've got a question that you want me to address in a future video, then if you go here, I'll try and get around to answering your question as soon as I can. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in another video next time. Bye for now.